basically mutilate, grieving, and then we bring them this. This would be to castrate the revolution. This would be to, to, to make it useless, to give people hope which is completely empty. It would be to divert our energies and anger into nothing. It's almost like the people who are telling us, let's sue Ruto. Sue him where? How? And how are you going to enforce the court orders? Because the
on the provisions of Article 146. So there's nothing extra constitutional about that. I agree with Dr. Miguna to the extent that an impeachment process is dead on arrival. So let's not even think about it. But there's nothing wrong with what Kenyans are doing right now, the protests, the pickets, to the extent that we succeed in getting President Ruto out of office within the provisions of Article 146 of the Constitution. That's very constitutional. The second thing I'd like to say, which is going to be my first point, was that I think there is the call for dialogue by Raila Odinga. I think was wrong-founded. Wrong-founded because as I listened to Dr. Tony Gashoka historicize the movement, as well as Dr. Miguna and Dr. Willie, you know, all the things we're asking President William Ruto to do, some of them are within the provisions of Article 73 of the Constitution. It talks about accountability of leadership, talks about competence, it talks about integrity. That's all there. So what we're asking William Ruto and his deputy to do is to stick to the provisions of constitutionalism and the rule of law. And you know, broadly speaking, constitutionalism is the fact that just do things as per what the Constitution is asking you to do. That's number one. But number two, let the rules apply across board for everyone else, so that it is not that for some people it's not clear. The third thing that I wanted to say again.
Maybe just to emphasize on what Daktari was saying, I think it is so clear that with the kind of legislators that we have, it will be a waste of time you taking anything to Parliament. These are the same people that passed on the finance bill that was rejected by everyone in the country apart from a few elites. They are the same people who were, even when the demonstration was about to get to Parliament, they were in there forcing to ensure that because of time they passed that bill. They ran into the tunnels so that they can hide themselves. The next day when the president rejected the bill, on his or they were behind him clapping. So really, that is not a house of honor. There is nothing that you can take there and it can be passed. The same way that the Daktari is asking, do we really have an opposition? These people were yesterday lined, both parties, ODM and Kenya Kwanza. They are the majority in parliament. They make like 99% of the representation. So where will you take this impeachment motion to? It is just an issue of common sense, if you ask me as well.
Thank you very much. And I agreed completely with Dr. Miguna, and I said that an impeachment motion is a non-starter. However, I said a constitution is read in its continuum. And if you look at Article 146 of the Constitution of Kenya, it provides for a president's resignation. And what we're doing is very constitutional to get President Ruto out of office. There is nothing unconstitutional in picketing to the extent that the president gets out of office. I'm not asking about an impeachment motion, so I think that's what I wanted you to understand. So two things before my minutes then run out is two things I'd like to clarify. There have also been calls by Kenyans that there needs to be like something, a dissolution of parliament. If you look at the provisions of Article 102 of the Constitution right now, it does not anticipate a dissolution of parliament. So one of the things we must do is to succeed in getting President Ruto out of power. Then, with the constitution of IBC, which is what we must fast track also, and we must be vigilant about that, is to then use the recall process to make sure that we send the other parliamentarians home. The other reason why I was opposed to Raila's call for dialogue is that when President Ruto agreed to meet Gen Zs on the X space, there was no conversation about dialogue. There was no conversation about selecting 150 people. The conversation was very simple.
Little try to learn so that I think your 2 minutes are done, and we have over 200 speakers on the queue. So please learn so that you can give the mic to someone else.
Could you please just give Neto a little bit more time, please,
That's
to
what I
finish?
wanted to say. Neto, I'm going to give you some of my 2 minutes. Please proceed. I know there's a reason why, because the legal thing is, it's interesting, and we want to also have that clarification. So please proceed to finish without interruption.
Thank you, Marge. And I just said the things I'm talking about will be extrapolated by Dr. Miguna and the Chief Justice. So 3 things then. One, I said, part of the conversations that we had was that there was no request by the Gen Zs for President Ruto to constitute a dialogue phase, because what the Gen Zs were asking for the president is to play by the constitution by sacking the corrupt ministers, sacking the people who are incompetent, and that is very clear. There's nothing that you need dialogue about. And if you see, look at the TGRC report, look at the Ndungu report, look at the Waki report, look at the post-election violence report, Agenda 1, Agenda 2, and 3. So Kenya is replete with reports that just need to be implemented. So for Raila Odinga to request us to go for another dialogue session is to make sure he's misusing us like he's always misused people previously. And you must understand one thing with Raila Odinga is that he always wants to disrupt things. If he's not at the center of those activities, then he also wants to disrupt them. So I really think that in this particular instance, we cannot allow him to disrupt us. The third thing I wanted to say is the issue of public debt and an audit of the public debt. The reason why you might have seen Raila and his friends come out in the open is because you remember Raila being part of Uhuru's handshake, was part of the Chinese debt, was part of all these things. So they know for a fact that an audit or an opening of the public debt puts them all in the same corner. So what would I request of us to do in the next couple of weeks? Number one, I think we need to focus the revolution. We need to focus the revolution, and Gen Zs did a good job by starting the revolution, but I really think that right now we need all hands on deck. We've been on this particular call with all these veterans, CJ Willie, Dr. Miguna, who started these calls earlier on. I think we need all hands on deck. Let the Gen Zs do their role, which they've been doing very well. Let the millennials do it, because it's for country. So that at least let's focus, so that when the part of leadership comes through, then let the Gen Zs, of course, then take over power in the way that they please. But let everyone else play their role. The last thing I'd like to say is the next weeks of IBC appointment. That's going to be the frontier where we must fight Ruto and Raila in a way that gives us what we deserve. You've seen the way it's always possible to manipulate IBC commissioners. The law right now, as it stands, is very skewed in favor of Raila and in favor of President Ruto, because 5 out of the 9 people to be appointed as the selection panel are all going to be from political parties. That definitely gives them an advantage in terms of who then becomes on board. So I think even though we might be disadvantaged in terms of where we're starting from, I think that space is going to be for eternal vigilance, because then like people are like, so that we do not scare too many people. If we protect that particular space, then we're going to be all good. The last one, the call for Ruto must go must always be accompanied by the call Gashagwa must go. Because part of what is going on in the streets is that people are wondering that if you let President Ruto alone, how then does Gachagua become president? Which is even more horrendous than the current president. So I really think that that clarion call should be for both of them. You know, of course, Ruto must go, Gachagua must go. But of course, when both of them go, and there are constitutional ways of doing that. If you look at the purpose of Article 143, you know, once the president has gone, the president, you can also throw away the deputy president, and then, of course, there's an election in 60 days. So that, of course, then still within the constitution. So that people like Ndego have no business getting worried. We will make sure the president resigns within the provisions of Article 146. We will make sure the deputy president resigns within the provisions of Article 143 and 144, and we shall have an election in 60 days where Gen Zs and other Kenyans can then put in the kind of president they want. Thank you very much, Maggie.
Thanks so much, Neto. And yes, Antonia, you next. Thanks for your submissions there. And Tony, take a go, and then Mkenya, your question.
Thank you. I just want to address the issue of fear and the issue you raised about marching to State House. Because, look, these issues that we are taking are not easy. It was Winston Churchill who said that of all the virtues of a man, there is nothing more important than courage. We would not have got the finance bill retracted had people not risked their lives and marched. We would not have the IBC panel now appointed had there been no this protest and this sacrifice for so many Kenyans, because even the NADCO report was not able to give birth to that. And I want to remind Kenyans what happened in 2002 when Mwai Kibaki won the presidency. President Moi came to Uhuru Park and the public went crazy. Moi must go, Moi must go. And he had all the security and everything there, but nobody was holding back Uhuru Park. I want to associate myself with what Miguna had said earlier. I think this country has not reached the point of critical mass. When we reach a point of critical mass, we are so many of us that they will be all scared of us. I was watching last week all MPs apologizing. I'm so sorry I didn't listen to Jay-Z. I'm so sorry I didn't listen, because they can't go home. I want to be, because these people listen to this space, and I know many from State House and intelligence are listening. The reason they bring out the army is to scare you. The reason they shot all these people, even 12-year-old boy, is because they want to scare Kenyans. Fear is that is their merchandise. If we buy fear and we start now looking like we want to be apologetic, we want to do IPPG, we want to do small things, as Miguna says, the black law, letter of the law, we are going to begin to lose that momentum. What is important, no dialogue, no talks, and no retreat means, are we ready to march and to march even up to State House? Who would have believed would have got it into Parliament? Who would have believed that Ruto can refuse to sign the Finance Bill 2024? Who can believe even now the military is hiding? Although they are deployed, they don't want to be seen in the public. We are winning this war because we are courageous and we have no fear. Let them not even think we have any fear at all. I want to stop there.
Thank you so much. Dr. Miguna, do you want to chime in before we go to KDR news, or do we?
No, go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead.
thank you. KDR news, then Aspirants, then in Kenya.
Thank you very much, Maj, Dr. Miguna, my good friend, and CJ Emeritus, Dr. Mutunga. I'm a little bit confused here because the law which was rejected, but technically I'm not a lawyer, that's why I need people like Dr. Miguna to come in and really tell us what is the, right now, where are we with the rejected bill? We've not actually had anything, and as per the explanations, Dr. Miguna, I had you last time, you said that after 14 days, that's what is the constitution. The law becomes effective. So where are we right now? And what can we do to salvage that particular law? And not really salvage, but just completely eradicate it. The other thing I also need to get from the legal minds is the aspect of, not really the aspect, but where are we with the real data of the people who are killed? I've tried to put my team in the field to get some more data, also more clarification, but they are getting a lot of pushback. Dr. Tony, I'm really having a very serious issue with getting the data from the hospitals, the data from the police. So up to now, even the 41 gallant members of the Gen Z who were killed, we don't really have a clear data and what really killed them, because what we also need when we are writing even articles, we really need to get facts right. So I'm still really having a very difficult time getting those data, getting the post-mortem, and up to now. So we are really having a very terrible situation down there. What can we really do to ensure we get this data, we get this information, and probably even file suits to ensure that these people have been brought to book? And then the other thing, when President Ruto is telling our Gen Z or our millennials or people like X, like, I mean, people older, all like us, what are we really going to do to ensure these people, especially the policemen, are brought to book? Why does he talk of dialogue? Why does Raila Amolo Odinga talk of dialogue while our people from our community in Kisumu down there, over 75 people were killed, and they were being pulled from their houses, from their huts, being clobbered to death, but nothing has actually been done. So I would also love the opposition to tell us exactly what have they done with the people who are killed. Right now, as we are speaking, there are people who are still getting abducted. The Gen Zs are being sent very weird messages threatening them and all that. So what kind of dialogue are they telling us while people are still being forced from their houses? They are being forced to abandon their just cause. I'm really having a lot of pain. And to finish up my 2 minutes, I'm still having a lot of pain. One of my sisters, I've actually seen her here, Dr. Kombe, when she was running from Kenya. Every media house really got scared of writing the articles about abduction. Our media house, through a friend of ours from the airport, gave us the information. We didn't fear. We wrote those articles. So if you've got any information which deems to better the lives of Kenyans, send it our way so that we can publish it. If you have got good information, we can even interview you. If it's not on Twitter, if it's on YouTube or wherever situation you want us to publish your information, please bring it forward so that we can publish that information. So I really need some clarification from CJ Emeritus, Dr. Mutunga, or Dr. Miguna, or Dr. Tony. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, KDR TV News. We go to Esperance and then in Kenya.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief. So I'm just wondering, I have a couple of questions. The first one is, at what point do we declare these disappearances, abductions, these murders, crimes against humanity? Because these numbers are rising by the day, and I mean, the government seems to have some form of false sense of immunity, which is very sad. At what point do we declare them crimes against humanity, and how then do we act? Do we wait for other people to act on our behalf, or how do we act individually to raise, to let the world know that indeed there are crimes happening against humanity in Kenya? I think Dr. Mutunga has dropped, but then I had a question for him. Maybe I was just wondering, as the first Chief Justice post 2010 Constitution, where did we lose it as a country in that one? Is the judiciary independent when it comes to draft? We've seen when this Kenya Kwanza government came in, we just saw cases being dropped one after the other in a very sequential manner. Number two, the issue of, I had him mention the issue of cattle rustling why are we glorifying robbery with violence in the name of cattle rustling? And is it something that cannot be stopped, or there's more to it than meets the eye? The third one, the ESCC, IPOA, and all these, are they toothless dogs? If that's the case, then how do we then handle them? Should we do away with them if we cannot fight corruption? The third question, the gift of public participation. Is it just a gift on paper, or do we have M&E tools to put checks and balances on it? Because we are in this situation. What triggered us to this situation is the people we elected failed to involve the public in public participation. So we went to the streets. And then I'll just, this is my suggestion. Can we break the system one department at a time, so that, you know, when uprooting one, say when we picked Nakumincha, can we ensure she's gone, then Ababu, because like right now Ababu, there are questions on the people he's carried to Paris. We'd want to know, can we have it clear how many people have gone to Paris and at what expense to the taxpayers' money, so that when we are pushing these agendas, you know, tunafinya, we inject until somebody goes. And then the person who asked, I think KDR TV News, who asked about data, I think because the government will not give us that data, I think that is HIPAA data, but we can get it from other CSOs like Badili Africa. I think Boniface Mwangi, I saw them working with those families, and they've been posting on their social sites, because they sought consent from the families. And then the last one, I think the Gen Zs do not need dialogue at this point. The things they're asking for should be done. Somebody said that when the government doesn't want to solve your problems, they create commissions, task forces, and introduce bougie words like dialogue. At this point, tribal kingpins, perceived or real, must take a back seat, because this thing is, I mean, the issues these people are asking, unemployment. What is dialogue going to create employment? And I still insist, can't dialogue run simultaneously with picketing as a right of the people? Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Esperance. Kenya, and then probably the guest speakers can then chime in. Kenya, your question, please.
My question concerns all the 742 interns whose contract was terminated for participating in the strike that was happening. So how can that be addressed legally, so that goes to the as well as